Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the June 25th meeting of the Ocean Highway 144. At this time, we will all please stand for the invocation led by your right pole while I'm like.
I'm gracious and kind, Heavenly Father, Lord, we do thank you to live in this great country, blessed and honored. Right now, Lord, thank you for the peace that we've seen thus far. Pray for a continued world peace, Lord. We ask now that you be with us, that you give us the wisdom and discernment we need to make right decisions for treasure and already looking for it. We ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
The fire of the United States of America. The bottom, which stands on its ground, when you get along.
Commissioner Moore,
Here.
Commissioner Hill,
Here.
Secretary Treasurer Cole,
Yeah.
Vice Chair Nelson,
Here.
Chair Taylor.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you for chair.
We missed you last time.
Welcome everyone. Got a nice group here. This evening. I do apologize. I missed the June 11th meeting. Would really like to have been here. I did watch as best I could the live stream, and of course, with the minutes yesterday. I do thank Vice Chair for leading in. Appreciate your governance. At this time, we do have some public comments for items not on the agenda. We'll start with Mr. Lou Theron. Lou Theron, 432 North 3rd Street, running the parking for 204. Talk a little bit about 18-wheeler traffic. You come through our neighborhood on a regular basis. Not only that, they back up to turn around try to turn around on 3rd Street. They back up into the street, back out most out of the tango, and they run over the curb, run over the IQ, fire locks, busted it out. But the main problem for me is coming through our neighborhood. They can't make the turn from the Skyview 4th Street. They run over my neighbor's yard at least 2 or 3 times. We went down and asked them about it. They said, well, we'll pay you gravel. They gave her $22 for gravel. Basically told her, don't come back. If you have a problem, get a hold of the trucking company. That's been their stance, is that we don't own trucks. We don't have to do anything. I don't own them. Nobody in the neighborhood. We don't have anything to do with trucks. Just operator that has the trucks coming in. It's not us to say, hey, you can't come through our neighborhood. No, they don't care. They're going to come rolling through there no matter what. So I think we have to have somebody in the opera to do it. You go way back, and I'll tell you, I go over and talk to Chris about it. He would come out of his office with his admin, and we would talk about it. He would tell her, we're going to fix this, and he did. From the time he did to the time he left the worldwide, we never had 18 wheelers come down there in strips. Now we have them on a regular basis. Coming, they turn off the day, over 4th Street, on this corner, and I can show you the road right there where they turn the street back and forth. They dug out patches like this in our road. They run across my driveway, they busted off that part of it. That road's just not going to be protected. So I think the operator is responsible because they're the ones using the 18 wheelers, not our neighbors. And I just think something's got to be done. Thank you.
You guys ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
Mr. Darren,
Sure.
when you said there were never trucks going down the street, are you talking about scamming?
Yes, I've got video. I sent video.
So has the issue been since the scamming is closed?
Well, they're not going there to turn off Day Street.
They're going up there, they're turning onto the Scambia as if
And then on to Scanlon, and then on Stratford.
can't get to Scambia anymore, so now they have to come back to Baker.
Well, they can't get through if they come down Scanner, but they can't get on the Scanner. There's still that portion open in front of about a block up still open. So they got off the day, they're on 4th Street, they come up and they take a left on this side here. Then they take another left, and then they go down the day, and they still can't turn around. They've got to still go back and forth, up and down, straight and straight, turn around. They just can't do it.
If I may, leave out one of these, so we did, took time to go outside and talk to the neighbor. And I advised the number one thing is to take a picture of that truck. Because I can't hold anyone responsible if I don't know. You know, every truck has a very specific number on it. And you give me the driver's license of the truck driver, and it will hold it down. So that's, and, you know, I'm sorry if the reimbursements weren't sufficient. That's what was the case. To really, as far as I'm not going to run this guy for.
I think if you don't mind just looking to a little bit, but we're just making sure that they have truck traffic, how to come in, when it comes through, really what that, logistically what it looks like. So they're not never getting these issues. They're not running into potatoes yards. They're not having those issues. And yes, like Ted said, if something like that happens, by all means, yes, find out who the truck number and let's get that back so we can just make them aware.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Lou did contact me on one of the instances. I made calls to one of these buildings. I talked to, Commander. He's going to assist us, but the last couple of times we've had conversations, he kind of pushed back that I will go and visit with the chief. And maybe we take a ride down in this situation, see if we can't put a final loader to it. But in talking with security, they try to get those trucks to go inside the trunk and turn around. For whatever reason, you sent me another picture where he's backing down the road again. The only thing we can do and security can do is stop them. And if they give them any trouble, just summons the Burlington Beach Police, let them be. There has been some competition.
It's the same driver all times or multiple?
Just different drivers and different truck and companies.
Taking a lot of videos on it. Yeah. It's all. And it's doing every all the time, so they come through so fast, I mean, you don't take a picture of them now. When they pull up per yard, like twice, they run through it, dragging a big rock all over the place. If she went out there and talked to that guy, you help me, go there, get the rock out in the yard, but, you know, that's, get thinking about it, you have to be, there's a, it's lay out, no way.
What you've got is the road drivers, they're not the same local drivers being dispatched in, so you can't go over the rules with them. These are guys that just come off the road and they have no focus other than I need to get slowed down.
And Chairman, when you look on Google Maps, it still shows that you can get out via escape. And so if a trucker turns right at the port because they realize they're supposed to go to the mill, not to the port, they think they can get out, even though that's not a designated truck route. Now they can. And so you have like an enclave for traffic. And so they are going to go down or to whatever street they go down because they can't turn around. So same problem fire trucks, same problem in the neighborhood. I spoke about this with the city. We weren't really given much advance notice. Where Sandy is closing, we weren't consulted at all. And I spoke about this with the commission at the time and individually, and they shrugged it off. They said they would want it. And it's an issue, I think, for access, for safety, to have one less point of access to the board. So, I mean, signage, you could put up 50 signs, right? And you have a street with 50 signs. Not a very pretty street. We can talk to truckers, but then you have your truckers. So I think, like, the reality is that that probably will be an increased problem. So we have funding and we have a study that should be starting next year, early 2026, that is addressing just this issue. So putting cameras, watching the trucks, seeing how many come into the port, and turn around because they're in the wrong place. And that's valuable information for us to come up with some sort of policy of what the next step is. But in the meantime, I mean, I agree, it's very dangerous. So thank you for joining our. Sure.
I was gonna suggest that you get in contact with Max, so and you need them all smartest and best. Just hot love. Is it the road hot love? No, I don't think that we just go. Yeah, yeah. Just close that stop.
Thank you. Next for non-agenda items, we have Mrs. Sandy Joseph.
And because I think you do want there, I was about to speak on this, but two things regarding this island. Remember, we did two issues of this 7 years ago, and the truckers on some app on GPS, when they, especially Uber drivers, it takes it to that, yeah, I don't think so, that report was doing. So to act to get to the bus, coming down Main, and like this truck that went over the earth, they turned right on the court. And then to get to the blue house, they had to turn left on the skinny, which isn't wide enough, they get those two places, then they go to the blue house, then they turn left, then they have to do all this back and up to get into it. So I don't know if somebody wants to check your links, when you pull up your driving, I don't know how that works, but it's taking, some of them are taking to the house, and that is an issue. The second thing is that's happening where the trucks come in often, and the new drivers, and when they come down, there's no stop sign, they just kind of look through there, and they're pulling but to the river. And then they miss that little dog leg on the scales after work. So I know signage can be just really too much, but maybe coming right down here, one sign has a visual that shows port entrance, like around, the sign that kind of show you how to veer to the right or something. That might stop some of that jumper. But I just wanted to give a quick report on our spring family that's living in the you missed this last, but the chicks are doing well, but these three chicks in there, great zoom photos of two babies, and for an operator, they're protected, so don't do anything to fly.
First week on the job, they said that train's gonna come down. I saw it now. And it's a 101. I work for a board organization. No one has some friends like you don't touch. So please know nothing will happen that fast until those chicks have flown. Yeah.
And who was it? Need a FWC or
Cross my heart.
And on your logistics, if they will get 100 Day Street out to the truck, that will bring them directly in front of the security office. I think that will stop some of this, because if they get down there, at least the security officer can take them into the truck, turn them around, and bring them back out without having to get into the neighborhood or any of the side streets.
Would that make them miss an interchange though, off to the side?
Well, they're missing that. That's
Okay.
the biggest thing, but if you give them a 100, the security officer can come out, catch them in the center gate, rather than letting them go down. But if they do get down the front street, they can go into the terminal rather than tying the streets out there.
Okay. Thank you. I'm solution oriented.
It may have.
Thank you.
Alright, thank you. Going into old business.
Chair,
Yes.
may I suggest, we have two guest speakers tonight. May I suggest that we jump to their item just in case they want to leave early. It's the one for web design and OPA listing agreement.
Y'all stay involved. Yeah, no, I think that's perfectly fine if the board is going to do that. Just on the agenda a little bit here. We'll go ahead and start. This is the first one on the agenda, tab 7E under old business is the listing agreement. We have Mr. Phil Griffin here. I know Questioner Nelson had some questions or some follow-up asked the come here. So Mr. Griffin, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you. Is there some questions?
Yeah, I wanted to go back, when we had the folks here that wanted to purchase 2 lots, I believe it was,
You want to purchase one?
one lot. I went back and read your latest response, and I see where you do recommend, actually reducing the price down just a little bit of the real estate, that's cool off. But you would continue to suggest the one with the 3 lots. I know that there's some question about selling all 3 of them at once, but I think that's a little overwhelming.
Yeah, the board wants to sell on a set. Typically, I mean, of all the potential buyers I've spoken with, all the contractors want to get good deals. They got plenty of margin to build 3 spec houses. And the highest paying buyers are always going to be needs because they want to have custom home built. And so we had an offer that was actually at and I think if we go back to what I recommended originally, it was based on more like 250,000 per lot. And then when we agreed that or it was decided that the city didn't want to have 4 lots of record there, the underlying lots, we ended up with 3 lots. So it really should have been 7. And the market has spoken at this point. 10, more than 13,000 views and very few phone calls. The ones that do want to know, 67 cents of the dollar is going to be a day. And you said it's not really that. And so we've only got 1 off.
And I think you said there's 2 more months left on the.
Yeah, there's a couple more months left, but I was gonna say, it's not working for me and I don't want to waste your time and efforts. If you really don't want to sell them, we can just, I'm willing to cancel it, not charge anything, just drop all. It's unrealistic to leave them on at that price. And the restriction that all 3 are being brought in at one time. It's just, swimming upstream. And, it's not really worth your while to do. We'd be better off putting it on and just retaining lots. Or over retaining lots.
So that is a recommendation.
That or fire me and try somebody else. I'm good with either one. The market kind of speaks for itself. We just kind of give it as a script piece. If you're out of market, you want to either get to market or just say you don't want to sell it.
Okay. Fine.
Okay. That can, what we're going to be for the partners.
Just that we selected you before, we worked with people, so I'm willing to stay with you if you're willing to stay with us until we can develop.
Yeah, and if you want to think about, repricing, I would highly recommend that. The principle we've got now is. So, you're more profitable than other people than you end up retaining him. So, and I know there was some discussion about some people in favor of selling and some margin. So if that's changed for you, I'm good either way.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Phil, for coming out and a lot of work that's involved in listing it. And, marketing the property, we really appreciate what you're doing us to the boards. It's kind of a thankless job to work on selling all the land because it's contentious. And,
Well, it's all, everything we do is, when we sell it, we overpay, and most of the time, we're not successful. It's not as easy as it looks. So I'm fine with it, whatever's works for you, just let me know. I'm good. Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you much. Right now, going down to tab 8C, it's web designer. As you know, we've had some, well, we have a great need to make sure our website's ADA compliant. It's where this started out. I believe it was Commissioner Moore who brought this, and he's been working towards it. It's trying to locate a web designer. I know there were out there. Did very sure. Good evening. Thank you for coming. And thanks for being here.
I assume you guys have questions.
Just a little background, just to refresh it for everybody. Our current website, there's been a change updates to the evaluation, whatever it is, the federal government doing that. On our website, accessibility, the publicly facing websites from the government agencies, which we are one. There's certain the ADA compliant Americans with Disability Act. There are certain things that have to be done with a website to allow for the accessibility to difficulty hearing people that have vision problems, things like that, and allow them better access to the public information. Our current website is non-compliant with the current and future ADA rules. So we started at least looking at the market of contractors and try to get an handle with an approximate price for making our website ADA compliant. That's what we're talking a little about. That's what it's here. Answer your questions. That's the word name about what you propose. Alternatives that we do out there. What we need to becomes compliant with the ADA department.
Want me to summarize a little bit of what I'm thinking you need?
Yes.
So first of all, your website is out of date. And one of the things that I recommend is that really we start over and we try to make what's there work. It's actually going to be probably more difficult because there are far more pages and complexity to where it needs to be. What I did propose, and I have kind of thought about this a little bit more, so I'm going to throw out a couple of additional items. What I recommended is AudioEye, which is a tool, and it has the front-facing piece, which understand the front-facing piece is not at all enough. It's actually in many cases worse because it interferes with the tools that the disabled use. So with AudioEye, it actually works on the back end and tells us what's wrong, and then what we can't fix, it uses AI to fix to the best of its ability. To truly 100% meet the government's requirements, you really need a person involved. And I mentioned in my proposal, I did this for another government site, and I actually used a company that I just recently realized was bought by AudioEye. So now they are 2 in 1, and I'm actually meeting with them tomorrow to get to know a little bit more about what they've changed since I've worked with them in the past. But they use human intervention and the tools as well as physically going in and changing the things that need to be changed. And there's a lot to it. It seems like it should be simple, but it's things like buttons and the ability to find buttons, contrasting colors, a lot of complexities to it. So with what I proposed, just using AudioEye, it's a very inexpensive option overall, and we'll probably hit 80–85% of the requirements, but to get closer to 100% would be close to probably another 5,000 investment to use the company's physical intervention to truly do what a government agency should do. So it's kind of what you can get away with, and I know you're under already a warning from the DOJ, so I'm a little bit concerned about, I think you said that. Did you have a warning from the DOJ?
No, we were just told
Oh,
about the,
I called. So we have kind of a lesser expense of doing it, we're doing it right. Any questions on all of that?
The only thing that is, so that makes sense, as far as reasonableness for the earlier go-get groups, I know Ford Public Health will do something there, and like runners. Maybe sit this out and share forward. Some of your websites, I think you've done, they're great, they're impressive. I heard it's early user services. I wanted to ask, my question was, in order to move forward with, are we required to issue years for the RFP?
No, and I don't think, I didn't commit to memory. What is the proposed amount? Just generally for the do it right option.
For a new site without that additional 5,000 I just mentioned, if I was to do support and maintain, because I know there's some things that Roseanne's doing, the highest was 8,135.
Is that annually, one time?
That's one time, and then the annual would be 885 plus 750.
Okay,
So
no.
like 2,000.
And we're not using grant monies for this, right?
Mm.
That would be where, and that's what we have to keep in mind, when we have any grants in all states or federal, my advice is going to be the contracts are big and long, and we've got to bid out all of this, those contracts. So no, we do not have to have a fee at all.
Is there an offset in the existing budget for website hosting that we would not need in this proposal? Do we know? Do we know that we still need the existing hosting?
no,
You're currently on Wix platform, which I think he says around 500 a year. I would move to a very similar platform, and the cost, we would still have to pay for AudioY and then my hosting, and that's for that almost 2,000 clicks.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question? So when you gave the option that is not it's the less expensive option. How does that differ besides cost in the doing it right option? Or doing it everything that you would recommend? What does that entail? Like, is there a last step that can be added on later if we decided to go with the less expensive option to start? How bad would it be if we said, oops, we really should have done the other? Is it an add-on or is it a completely different approach?
AI manipulating to make it work versus human and code intervention to make sure it works.
That I understand. But those humans can't be brought in late because they can't. Because that's the thing. If we wanted to go with the lesser expensive option, we get to the 85% compliance. We are not under any kind of consent order or DOJ warning. And I just, as an option for they always come to DOJ and say, tisk, you need to, and we're on a limited budget, we're growing our budget, but we're limited. So I was just wondering, if we start with the less expensive approach, how bad would it be for us to say we want to ultimately, because building the website is going to take time. If you're recommending a rebuild, that takes time. And then if we wanted to say, we definitely want the human approach, because then AI is not going to, DOJ is not going to care that you used AI, it was wrong. Sorry, you're not in compliance. You're not in compliance. So
action of DOJ, it's being sued by an individual.
Understood.
And that unfortunately is on the rise. And we're in the order to the highest.
Understood. Yeah, it's a cottage industry here. I understand. Yeah. So
Just honestly, in all of my sites, specifically, I just do the AI. All of my other sites, but I don't always do government sites, but that's where I always do.
so it's a $5,000 difference, and that's a one-time charge.
Yes, yes. And then you will continue to keep the tool in place. Because once you turn off that AI tool, everything it did is gone. So you should maintain that.
And does that include like other devices, so like a mobile app as well, or things like the cross devices that it would provide?
It would include your website on mobile and tablet, but not an app, unless I were to build an app or, and I don't do apps, so Wix has an option to do that, you guys have that, but it would apply to your normal tablet and desktop.
And all of the existing files, so there's so many different pages and documents on there, is there a way just to archive them so that they are available in the format they were, they have been presented without replicating them again on the site?
Everything will have to be replicated to some degree to start over, but yes, there absolutely be a way to maintain that up. I just want to simplify your website's very complex and confusing the way it's set up, and I propose that we simplify that a great deal to the average person quickly and easily find a tool keyboard.
Yeah, no, disagree, all, that's certainly the direction we go. So I'm just thinking about other, government sites, like Nassau County site, security site. They have, this maybe when you're, I don't know if you're representing, like the archives and documents, things like that, and if there's a, policy or there's something that we voted on, then we can go back and will that, is that posted somewhere, or is that just, that's not what we're talking about here? Or is that even an option? Even our meetings that are streams, probably each meeting, so, for the audience sit here, or someone at home, you go back and look at what was discussed 3 months ago on this date. And I'm just thinking of, again, simplicity, how to make it easy, how to make it easy to navigate, for the user.
We would just need to talk about what makes sense for where to store that, to access it, that I'm not worried at all about getting the access to it. For many of my clients, we store on Google, and I don't know if that makes sense for your organization. But if you need to be thinking about it, wherever we put it has to be accessible in the other term of people being able to get to it. So it can't be password protected, or it can, I don't have a story for set up, but we see talk about this often.
We're not storing. We're not storing it. YouTube. Is there a way? That's a question, because right now we use that. I mean, that saves us a ton of money, right? In audio visual costs. So YouTube records it, is replaying it, and then you can view it for some time, but then YouTube controls when it goes away. Is there a way to archive the video link to YouTube so that it is there until we decide that it's gone?
We can't control how long YouTube keeps it up, but you can do something like in a service like Venmo.
Copy that video file.
Yeah.
That's how you archive it.
What is stored on that cloud.
Okay. I mean, it's something that if we can do it and there's not that much cost to it, it would be really nice for people to be able to go back, a year or whatever and see, a video.
Are you limited at all in using like Google? Is that something that you're allowed to?
No, we're not limited. Yeah.
So, I would even suggest.
Is it a cloud-based storage? Yeah.
Store videos there. There's so much you can do from a storage perspective or everything that be easy to get to.
Awesome.
So it's a matter of, what we need to do, what we want to do, and the one else.
And when you can do it.
And moving the speaker, yeah, correct. Right,
Think that. Maybe the quadrant is not. That's true.
It has been in place for quite some time. It's a very unclear and confusing law, but it is 100% applicable to government and has been for several years. That is the arguable part of it is the government cannot get it.
so we have to do something.
Yes,
You
Yeah.
have to lower, you know,
I'm not gonna say yes, you have to be.
I'm sure I'll work.
Yes, I would.
All right. Any questions?
Yeah, just a comment, it's everything that. The commission does comes down to, the money. We're currently paying $500 for, web presence in such as it is. This will be a significant increase on them. To, make sure that the budget for that and if we need forward, between from 500 to 2,000. For the annualized.
So, this is just to start the conversation. We have until 2027 to comply with the ADA. I reached out to Miss Osborne because she was recommended by the Nassau Chambers and she's local. So just in case we need to have her fix something, I could reach out to her. I am still shopping. I am in conversation with Civic Plus and the full board was I forwarded the email to the full board about it. They want to do a presentation and I just don't know how to get all 5 of you in one place without putting a notice on the, should we have a workshop?
We need a second.
Right. So
I think that, we have, everything we have until 2027.
27 April.
It's something that I need to kind of jump on, as soon as we can. But yes, I do think we have another company who also like coming in for representation. It's pretty close that we should do that.
The issue with Civic Plus is they're from Kansas, so they have to do it through Teams, their presentation. So, I'll try to set that up. Maybe.
And again, even with that deadline, that it doesn't keep individuals from suing you.
Right.
Deadline. It's always the risk.
Any other questions for?
I just want to comment that, I think we should look at other providers just to get a sense of the overall cost of the trade-off of the local company. Where we can call and help, which we need regularly, and we're trying to add documents to the website with changes. I would like to see a streamlined site where we're putting so much information out there. Whatever proposal we take on, I think that in order to comply with this, I don't think we can limit it just to the website as it is. I think it needs to include all of the media that we put out. In wherever it is, whether it's on to internet format, if the goal is compliance with this requirement, it's very broad. And it wouldn't just apply to the formal website. I think anywhere that we publish here for the media. So anywhere we publish the media or this, official publication. So if we can work on getting those other proposals, so we make sense, I think we should do that at our next couple meetings and then make a decision to figure out how to pay for it, because if you are sued, we just happened at the city, a settlement was paid, and that did not bring the city, that money paid, that bring the city closer to actually going out and applying. So then they ask for the money to go out and apply,
No, we do that. We're not. And settlements generally, start like this. Start.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you guys having me. Yours,
And you're welcome to stay.
you know, I'm a start, and I'm actually in a lot of pain, so thank you for letting me. Thank you for listening. So,
Get that contract with old business, tab 7A, the bid replacement contract. We have I know Tammy has sent out a couple of emails for us.
Mr. Chair, and board members, I received yesterday an email from Amy Polson, an attorney for the operator. Oh, thank you. I don't really need this thing, but yes, can you all hear me now? Okay, so I sent out an email with two attachments. One is a draft letter agreement between OPA and the operator on how we're going to split the cost between the grant and the match. And also, Savage agreed to pay OPA's attorney's fees for like, at my cost, it's 2.5 hours to review that letter agreement, and I would assume the construction services contract too. So that I have not had a chance. I went through the letter agreement. I will just say really quickly, just to put it on the record, that for the letter agreement, it's really just because of Florida law. So it says that OPA is going to receive the money, and then there is a 30-day time period. I don't have it with me. Sure, I can open it. Oh, good. There, the 30-day payment period, it says that OPA has to, basically at the end, the contractor is going to be waiting more than 30 days to get paid. That's not okay under Florida law. There is a prompt payment act, and we're subject to it. And so for public construction contracts, they have to be paid in 30 days. 45 you can sometimes get away with, but if we agree to this, we're agreeing to potentially violate the law. So that's just like a sort of a technical housekeeping. Yeah, just a housekeeping thing. So we can work, this is just draft. So no, I mean, I don't think they expected us to respond tonight. I haven't had a chance to go through it, just that they would be, if you all want me to handle it, then they would pay my fees for 2.5 hours to get this done and get this in place. So, and I zipped through the construction services contract. I mean, it's pretty standard. There'll be some Florida language that I want to add in there, but nothing that is, I didn't see, for example, an arbitration clause, because we talked about that, I think, at the last meeting, that I would always recommend against those. They don't save money in my experience. So mediation is good. You can force yourself, the parties, to come to mediation before court orders it or before there's even a lawsuit filed. And I like those provisions. So I just need a little bit of time, if you want me to do it, to wrap this up. And if I know that in the letter, the operator, Ms. Colson, asked, please make sure not to sign the contract before the operator sees the final version. I think that's a fair request. So just my comment so far.
Yes.
Can I, so a couple things, we started this, it's kind of out of the loop, but in the loop. So a couple things. So I know y'all were worried about us getting on the list and being a bit late. So I reached out to Kyle Kaufman, DOT. The lead time on these materials is getting pretty long. We are going to meet the end date for the construction. The contractor assured me of that. But here's what we're going to do. There is, as soon as we get this done, they're going to have to do some 3-lane drawings, pretty small amounts. And so then I'll be able to submit an invoice that triggers us to get off of that delinquencies, and then we get back in full compliance. But Kyle Kaufman also said in writing that even if we get into a situation where the materials are even further delayed, which we don't think we will be, a 3-month extension is just all.
So, taking this, which, yeah, it's the board, before. think the 300 by the next meeting, July 9th.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I would, yes, I would work, I'll get right to work on it. I know they want to get it done and we want to get it done. So we'll get a contract. And so is the expectation that this comes back to the board for like a final approval with the changes, or how do you want to do
I
that?
think so. Go back to us.
At the next meeting, we'll have something that we agree to, hopefully.
The next, 7E, the engineering service agreements.
That is me too, Mr. Chair, for the update. So on this, I have been in contact. This is, and at first I was confused and I sent an email asking the operator to pay the cost for this. And I thought that's what Commissioner Hill was referring to, not necessarily the vendor replacement. Anyway, this particular contract for continuing contracts because in Florida, we have to follow this laborious process. It takes months to do a request for qualifications under this Consultants Competitive Negotiation Act. And so in Florida, they allow agencies to enter into continuing contracts. Those are contracts that can be multi-year contracts as long as there's a provision that it can be terminated for any reason. In other words, we can get out of it. And so this would be to call on Actum to do designs, project management, and environmental things that we need as needed. We would issue a purchase order, a task order. They provide us with their fees, and we use them on an as needed basis. It's also not exclusive. If we ever needed to do, have another engineer on our list, we could do that as well. But that's what this is for. They sent me a master services agreement, and I feel like, since I'm the only one that's been working on it, that it's probably best to use their form. And I've looked through and made a few changes already, and send it back to them and see if we can get that language and bring it back at the next meeting. Is that acceptable? And I haven't heard back from the operator. I know that when Ted did an email and it was like, he wasn't sure why we were using these services too. So you can have popped.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just wanted to get caught up on the when, where, who, how, like we use Aptum. I mean, I've read their brochure, it's a very good company. They seem, it's just, does OPA just tell them to do certain matters, or is it a code sponsored thing? And then how do we split the fees for that? That's what I was wondering. How does it work? If it does involve us. If it doesn't involve us, then none of our business.
So this is something that, again, came up, as having a engineer kind of on standby. Should something arise, they're there. Don't know when that would happen, won't be, but yes.
I met with my dog the first month that I became commissioner in Jacksonville. I was in their office to do a presentation. And I don't remember very much of it, but it was good. And one of the takeaways from that job is that the border for India is very reactionary, and that it's a smaller board that's kind of expected, but that if you wanted to be able to quickly be shovel ready for projects as needs arise, you can continue a services contract with engineers, and you don't have to go, oh, now we need an RFP. Now we need to have a meeting, which an RFP, and we need to advertise, and let's define the scope, let's go out for bid. If you have a continued services contract, then, it illustrates the readiness. But of course, we still need to be thoughtful with how we're gonna utilize those services. But I mean, I can look back in the past, 5 years that I've done before. Every single instance that we've been out with an engineer, whether it's for resiliency or for anything that had grant funds attached to the local project, that engineering piece has to be advertised and performed also as a tier. It couldn't have been done in-house at one point. So, And this is not to replace your in-house engineering team. This is to replace going out to bid and
Every single time.
for that project, yeah.
So Tim, when do you think we'll have that, this crystal ball?
Early next week. Cool. I mean, if you want me to start sharing I don't know if. I have a
Yeah,
limited
it's another
amount of time.
item on the agenda right now.
Yeah,
I am gonna be in a rush state, so that's.
I have a limited amount of time, and if all of this is gonna get done, the tender contract, which, and next week, I promised the board I would share my number of hours, after this meeting, I'm at my monthly limit of 15 hours. And when the port attorney Patrick did this too, we always eat some of the costs. I mean, there's way more than 15 hours that this authority needs. And so, every minute is not captured, but yeah, I'm at my limit. So if I was to do the engineering contract next week, sadly, or the port operator would need to pay me. So otherwise, it'll be done the first week of July. It'll be July 1st, yeah.
And we have some folks in this year from, we say a few words, thank you for being here, and,
Yeah, it's nice to meet all you guys today, Austin, from out, Boston, over. After the year, and thank you guys for having me. I'm a official up there, then, Southern University, the government after the Board of Tech government. And I've been there for half, and we're about 5 years in. We're gone.
And he's local, he's from Jacksonville, so we want to have someone here when you need us down. And we have been providing some information to your attorney with what our normal contracts that we deal with. So we can help with that and get true facts. They're standard terms. And some other things that come up that are gonna come up later too, is that we did provide in our proposal, I think legal review and legal engineering will provide grant writer. So we do have a grant writer, and we do have a grant writer that has handled the kind of grants that we have here. I can tell you that I've done EIDP grants, and I've done the grant that's with the CBP. I've done one of those when I was with Port Palm Beach. So we have a lot of experience in grants. I can tell you that when we're doing our projects, probably 25% of them or more have grants involved. So it's something that our entire team, our coastal, our 4 people deal with all the time. So it's something easy to handle. We can handle quickly, especially with your staff.
thank you for being here.
All your name, Joe.
James. Hey, on good times.
Moving down, we did tab 7C, revenue carry or rate bid with Nassau Terminals LLC. I know we received a letter. This came from Amy, General Counsel, the Relay. So we're looking for the update here. Trevor, Commissioner, or Tammy, the attorney.
I've been busy.
Visits, what are you going to sure?
I've already had my visit. And I expressed at the last meeting, Mr. Chair, and you were enjoying yourself, that just starting on, I expected there was going to be more work and more time needed just to get up to speed and stuff like that. I reviewed this and I would like an opportunity. So the board asked me to respond to this portion, facility use fee, and it was specifically with regard to and the board vocalized this at the last, I think, 2 meetings, that we generally right now, because I haven't talked to Amy Colson, disagree with the idea that the facility use fee monies that go into the maintenance reserve fund are not allowed to be used by OPA to pay the fee. But there are other arguments, for example, in the operating agreement, when we talk about a facility use fee, the fund needs to reach $50,000 and then some other things happen. So I would like I decided that on my own, not to write the letter before I had an opportunity tonight with Chair Taylor here also to say, I would like an opportunity to speak with Amy Polson before I just send out a letter without talking to her, let her know what my thoughts are. I think the reading of the operating agreement with regard to the property insurance being subtracted out of the facility use fee, I honestly cannot follow Amy's logic on that. So I wanted to talk with her about it, have the agreement open and say, I don't read it this way. You read it this way. I don't. So I think we're not together on, I don't think that there is, unless I'm missing something, any disagreement on the tariff issue. Because from what I'm reading, the tariffs are set by OPA, right? Selected by the operator and belong to the operator. The facility use fee is a different fee. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm still new and I'm happy to be wrong, but that's how I read it. Facility use fees are different fees that are also set by OPA, but that there's a formula in year 7 that OPA starts getting 25% of these fees that in the first 6 years were collected and kept by the operator. The facility use fee is where the 50,000 comes in. And I honestly don't know if that was intended for the pilot payment. Whether it was or it's not, doesn't matter. OPA can spend it however they want to. But I read it like that fund has to reach $50,000. And not until it reaches $50,000 does OPA have a responsibility to even think about paying for property insurance out of the facility use fee or anything like that. So I would like an opportunity to speak with their attorney and just chat through that rather than just sending a letter. Then they send us a letter that says you disagree. I find that sometimes if you have a phone conversation, the letters look a little bit different.
So if we have, quick ditches, back forth letters, emails, and the tone of an email, tone of the letters. uh, It's sort of really, understand it's better to have a dialogue. I think that's a great.
And I had an hour conversation with Amy Polson, just she and I earlier this month, and it was a great conversation. And, we were very candid about our clients' positions financially and otherwise, and things I'm not going to say at this meeting, but we all have an interest, or both the operator and OPA, obviously, and who OPA represents have an interest in port succeeding, period. And so if we have that in common, I think that we'll be able to work out uh, what we need to, and not just have these letters going back and forth without any real contact and conversation. So I expect at the next meeting to bring something back and at least know where we stand, where they stand, and if we have a true disagreement about it, then so be it.
Yeah, that's a great approach. So you have not yet scheduled.
I'm just going to give her a call. She's very accessible. Yeah. So that is on our, does that make sense? Okay. But I did want to say, because it's not on here, and I sent this to Rosanna, Amy Polson also sent great news on the property insurance rates. The property insurance that's currently covering the OPA facilities, it expired May 31st. And the property insurance market was expected to be a little soft, meaning we were going to get some savings. And so in the letter at the end of May predicted like a 40 to 45,000 annual savings. The numbers came in as $150,000 annual savings, which is great. Making if OPA agreed to make this quarterly deduction for property insurance, it would be like 67,734 or something like that, versus like 108,000 per quarter. So it's a significant savings. So that's great for the operator, for OPA, whatever. That's good news. So they have secured that coverage as of June 1st.
And so Pierre also with correspondence back and forth, but you can picture something.
Yes, absolutely. I know where you are.
Moving on, starting doing questions or comments. You want? I'm gonna go into tab 7D, about warehouse. We do have, a speaker, Mr. Bob Burchett.
Thank you. Buffer sheet, for Third Street, Furniture District. I have two things. One, I would rather, I'm waiting for the update, but I want to be, the update is sooner rather than later for new location. Now, my second thing is a concern. I'm concerned about the fabric warehouse presently is used to store, for the most part, as I say, wood. I'm worried about a lightning bolt coming down, hitting the wood, going through the fabric warehouse, the fabric, the wood, starting fire. And it's windy out in that area. As you notice, there's no spare small trees up on the hill, that's in the old harvest hill. And that's because of wind. So a storm with lightning, light the house on fire, this house on fire, Jeremy's house on fire. I'm really worried about that because there's no fire suppression in the fabric warehouse. It's just the fabric covered over wood. So I'm concerned about that. So it brings us back to the first point, which is I hope that the thing gets moved sooner rather than later. And I want to add probably that this, I think it's the same machine with the other fabric warehouse. That's used mostly for wood storage. There's no fire suppression. Just close the house. Thank you.
Thank you. So, we're over fabric warehouse notification. I know in the last meeting, it was agreed upon to withdraw the petition of the city. Is that correct?
That is correct. That was a vote, unanimous vote, yes.
Correct. Where are we with it now as far as time frame? Yeah.
So I think we have agreed to withdraw the petition.
Okay.
As recommended. Positive, I'm sure in your eyes. We need to come up with a game plan. I mean, there's another,
Has it filed?
no,
So,
yeah.
well, when did we file?
I will give you an update when that will.
Right, because, the city could issue code enforcement, violations against the warehouse because it doesn't see it open. So we don't want that to happen. Because then the fees start accruing daily, when you have to action. So,
I was just notified. So I'm not counsel, so I'm just the mouthpiece in that portion of it. But I mean, what I want to personally say is, there's another element to this. I mean, I need to find a way to make this work commercially. If you told me that warehouse has stopped working today, I am going to be shut. I'm at capacity for it. So, I'm not trying to filibuster, I'm trying to drag feet. I just need to come up with a solution that works for the board because I can't lose a customer. It's a real important thing for me.
Is it how it moves with this lag?
So, and Commissioner Nelson probably, hopefully would agree. So let's say customer A, I say, hey, Mr. Customer, or Mrs. Customer, I need you to move all your cargo out of the port because I'm about to lose capacity. And please don't come to the port before X amount of time because now I need to reposition this storage. Right? So that could be 2 months, 3 months, whatever. Well, almost all of our customers are coming on a regular basis. So now we're no longer part of their supply chain. Someone else is. So now we have to go beg them to come. So to me, that's a real danger. I mean, I consider everyone's opinion to be valuable, but from my corner, I just want to come up with a solution. that work here. But
How, how long would it take? to Move. So you said right here, okay, tonight, you gotta stop, we need to move it to the new location. How long would that take?
so
Tear down, moving the.
yeah, so yeah, and I don't have a great answer for you. I have asked in-house engineering to get me estimates on that. But really, it's I would need to get with Travis and see how long it would take us to really get all that stuff out. Okay. There's just a lot of chess pieces. There's not like two customers in the port, there's multiple. So we have to move a lot of pieces around to make capacity to then have a game plan to lessen the impact, then schedule the contract review. That's sort of the variables I'm juggling right now, just trying to get a game plan in place.
So you're thinking maybe 2 months, and then you'd be able to at that point kind of look out there and
Gun in my head, yeah, it's just commercially, it's just whole thing's gonna be tough. Not arguing, I'm just giving you my perspective.
um,
So we haven't formally withdrew the application on the building. So obviously you haven't applied for the demolition permit. Correct?
That's correct, yeah.
I would recommend you go ahead and apply for that demolition, because once you do that, gives you a 6 month window. Okay, and it also keeps you from getting pounded by the city. You need to go ahead and do that, because knowing that this is inevitable, it's got to be moved. So this gives you a planning window that you can go ahead and start working with your customer. Because you can make room. Trust me, during the pandemic, I made room that I said time and time again I didn't have. But if you really put your mind, if you come up with room, but you need to go ahead and start working on it. Sitting around waiting is not a good thing. I would highly suggest you get that demolition permit application in, so at least you're protected from the fines. So
Appreciate your advice.
it's I'm out there all during the week. I see what's going on. But you can make it. If you want me to come out and talk with Travis, I'll work with you. But it can't work. You can't get it done.
I appreciate your advice. Travis has run force for 29. Yeah, if anybody can figure out this thing.
I know.
Well, again, he just agreed it can be done.
So I think with maybe like dates, like stuff we're trying to figure out here. If you maybe withdraw or withdrew petition and then file the demo permit that is Wednesday, so the next week. If you gave a date, there was 6 months, I didn't know that for 6 months, there's 6 months to demo it, but I wanted to, okay, let's keep that going the entire time. If you gave an October 1st months, with that, you think that would work?
In theory, yes. I mean, I'm we're going to go here. So yes.
And pulling a demolition permit is just having served the city for so long is going to get the city code enforcement off your back too. That's going to be their signal that you're compliant.
So,
If you were to do that, and there was a hiccup, somehow that could be getting extension.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's in process and I don't disagree with the chair. I mean, nobody's gonna be breathing down your neck. You have that at least, I mean, other than board, but the authorities are not, if you apply for the demolition permit, it's easy to do. Then the city's gonna be like, okay, we're moving on.
And I understand your need for capacity storage and so I can certainly always try to whatever you need, work with you, to work with them, we'll work together. Thank you.
If you think you need a temporary structure, depending on how rapid the structure is going to be up, it may be exempt from zoning. Which you should confirm with the city if you're anticipating moving temporary rubber storage. I would strongly advise that you confirm that you don't need a permit. Before you construct it and how long, in fact, work that in your plan, if it's 28 days. Or if it's 60 days, no advance before you construct any of temporary structures. While typically only giving a permit might cause the city to stop paying attention, this is a highly visible incident, like needing to pull a permit and not doing so, and when it's between two criminals, who just really frequently cause to disagree. I doubt that anybody's gonna forget it.
Yeah, understood.
As much as that
Might I just add that it might be good you to concurrently have your permitted, where you want to do it. You have the TRC, any of that.
I just got to put this on the continuing agenda so that we can monitor it, every meeting to make sure that,
That's following.
how long do you think it would take to get a preliminary plan that we take a look at as far as the steps, and some sort of timeline associated with getting the warehouse meeting? Obviously, it's just, noting on something that we can look at. We're not going to hold your feet to the fire, but, we need something, some sort of document that we can look at and see that the steps are being taken in a lawful manner. Monitor the
I
trial.
mean, you just wanna put a status up there, is it continuing?
Status, just update, then fall there. Either. Next week. So you get in there, get the, demo permit file, look out to the first, the date, and then, yeah, we'll just continue every meeting, we'll have a status update.
Oh, can you talk about? That was raised. So we received the fire suppression plan from the warehouse, that price check against the federal warehouses. Are they included in our fire plan?
No, they're not.
Okay, why not?
I don't have a good answer for you. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they were deemed to be temporary structures when they were put up.
They were never pursued under fire suppression. They were never pursued. When they came in and installed, that was never part of the discussion.
Yeah, I'm just curious, so like bigger bulk terminal, I don't know if materials are flammable. But. Could you look into what fire suppression standards would be appropriate for flammable materials, whether they're. Piled or stacked in a back of a warehouse, just as part of the plan or. Because, when members of the community sit there and imagine all the ways it could go wrong. It sometimes it can sound like, oh, the sky's falling, these are all the ways to go, but really that is the safety plans are written, is that you sit there and think of every single thing that could go wrong. And what's your evacuation plan, and stop a fire because of the materials that you have. And that, so forth.
With it stacked, it'd be hard to distinguish that time. And none of that on ship time. What we ended up doing was flooding those holes. And stuff that they didn't fly that. You can't do that in that portion. So you have a bigger problem. Honest. That's the honest answer.
That's no, so good comment, thank you.
Yes, Mr. Richard.
My only question is, following Ray's comment, the 6 month clock from start until the demolition permit is filed, is that your understanding?
Yes, that's the law. That is how long a building permit in Florida is valid for, 180 days.
A demolition permit?
A demolition permit is issued under the Florida Building Code, and it's valid for 180 days from the time the permit's issued, not from the time it's applied for. Sometimes it takes, for a demo permit, it wouldn't take more than a couple of weeks, but it'll be, some days before it's even issued. Once it's issued, then the 180 days starts.
So as a citizen, we have overlooks before, it's 125 years old, it's made out of sticks for the most part. And it's windy, there's lightning, and huge house. On the roof floor, in front of the top of this house. There's septic damage. So, the clock's not even started yet. So we're going on this path, we can talk about it every meeting, but yet. The board needs to hold.
And unfortunately, that's where I asked him next week. Make sure this demo permit is filed next week, so the clock starts. That clock would put us into first of the year. However, I'm asking October 1st is gonna be that day, so we're move it up by 3 months. And he essentially agreed to that. So I understand the concern, but we're trying to still expedite it, but also understand the needs, because there's a customer, there's an issue with customer. We need to figure that well, but again, it's not gonna extend out. 6 months.
But it behooves the sewer operator from a commercial perspective to delay filing for demolition. That's my only point.
Understand. That's why we're asking. He said next week it's gonna be taken care of. All right, moving on to tab 7F. This was the notice to port operator, commissioners list. Tammy and again, I missed the meeting, so not too familiar with it. What I was able to gather when watching it, reading the minutes was we're going to create a list of concerns or issues or.
So this comes from commissioners, and this was at the last meeting. Vice Chair Nelson, Commissioner Moore, they both have photographs and dates of damage and maintenance issues I have not looked to determine whether they are or they're not, and we haven't shared them with the operator yet. There are pictures and there's dates. And so we talked about commissioners submitting, well, in an email, I think it was submitting directly to the operator. My suggestion was submit them to me, and then I will submit them all together to the operator. So the operator is not just chasing each commissioner's different issues. They get it all at one time and say, these are issues. We need your responses on what is the status of repairs, maintenance, what's the issue with this particular photograph of this portion of the facility. So that was my suggestion, but I work for you. So far I've collected from Vice Chair Nelson and Commissioner Moore.
I think it's a constructive way to look at the director he, as the attorney, and then send that to the operator. And then yes, and then try to get the feedback and the updates on what these are, so we can address them that way. And so just sitting in, and then we're, it's conversational, trying to.
One of the things that, and I'm not speaking for Ted, but one of the things that when Amy Polson and I spoke is that Ted is newer. That's not an excuse. So am I. But anytime you're trying to get up to speed, and you're getting anyway in our daily work, even when we are up to speed, dozens of emails, and you're trying to be responsive, and you're going to lose sight of some. So It was just, it was understood because it was the same for me, that Ted's getting all these emails, and if he's getting emails from Rosanna, from commissioners, just shooting pictures and dates and things, it just becomes a little chaotic, and then I think that a better approach would be to send them all at once, and then to expect him to reply and have something for us to discuss at a meeting, or the easy things that he says, oh yeah, we've already got that, ready to be fixed on this date or that or whatever. And then there's not an issue versus just bringing it up here and saying, we have an issue. What are you going to do about it? Let me get back to you. And then we have another meeting. So,
Yeah, I think it's got something. So that we, they know where the deficiencies are, all deficiencies, where they're coming from. There's a format to them. They give them certain expectation that they'll respond within, X number of days of each term. So that it's more of a formal process, so we can track, what is being done, as opposed to random emails and telephone calls and things, or sometimes not. Making it to reality.
I agree. So Tammy, so you have some already.
I have two commissioners, Moore and Nelson, have submitted. You don't have to, it's not it wasn't a homework assignment that you have to, but if you happen to be at the court or have been at the court, have taken pictures, have noticed things, that is how we're going to submit it. So it could just be something you wrote up and say, hey, I noticed the security gate doesn't work correctly, or I noticed this or that. Those are the things. And by the way, I don't plan to manipulate any of that data at all. I mean, I'm known to be pretty busy at home, but I don't know industrial stuff at all. And I would not do anything other than take it, compile it into a format that can be read, understood, and responded to.
Well, in the interim, my chair, since that meeting where we talked about the list, we had a meeting with FDOT, and the recommendation was made this a workshop, just to come to an agreement. And I appreciate Tammy you being like proactive, to kind of consolidate all of our issues in one list. I think that's right. And I kind of struggle with having like a legal discussion, and like you said, you're not gonna really take that information to do anything with it, and then it's like always lawyer, let's go to Amy's got a lot of things on her plate, I'm sure. And it's yet one more thing that's close to dispute, so my thought is there a way for us to potentially do that workshop? That way we're kind of following FDOT's suggestion. They do this all the time in the state, and that was their suggestion, was like, come together, have a workshop, then they get one list from the board, and individual commissioners directing. We can kind of come to an agreement on prioritization of that list. And I suspect that some of these things recently have been fast tracked, in the grant process that Commissioner Moore's been working on, and Rosanna and Davis. Sorry, Ben, you're great, David.
Well,
Reason for this line item, you have this things, I guess. So, yeah, so what do you think about maybe doing an a recommended approach? Will we have a workshop or a session or a public meeting, having public, but where the board kind of comes to agree with the operator on projects? And that's the only thing they talk is prioritizing maintenance issues, funding. And then the rest, if they become, A, B, C, like what's first priority, and this might help us like kind of take a first step towards long-term planning. If we're thinking about fabric warehouses, maybe have some concerns for us, maybe we start developing a longer-term plan, like, okay, a fabric warehouse has a life of 10 years. Do we see a long-term plan for other, like, more enduring structures? How do we pay for that? Does that not make sense? At least we're being thoughtful and intentional about whether or not that's good for the board for, at least considering long-term planning. Because that's gonna be what eliminates, like, when we go for funding and see. To USDOT, we're making durable investments in our port, not temporary ones, right? But I'm not available for a workshop in August, in July, we'll have decided for next month. Like when I turn our meetings, you make sure.
Yeah, I think that's So, yeah, it's a great idea. So what we do in the meantime, uh, get that list of, still get that list of Tammy, she'll put it together, get it to the operator, and then he'll have his feedback.
This doesn't pass through.
Just pass, exactly, and then we'll have a work on, get a lot of the answers we need to answer, and then, yeah, prioritize, primarily on the.
But we're not making a formal demand for that list. Are we?
I don't think, that wasn't my intention. I mean, and I can preface any, email with. Yeah.
I'm sitting here listening to this and can't believe that we're chasing this rat down the hole. When you done away with the facilities committee, I sit right here in this room and told you that I was going to continue to do my job. I'm out of that port, and when I see something that is a safety issue, I'm bringing it to whoever's going to listen. And that's what I did in the May meeting with Travis. I walked up to him and said, look, you and I we got some things we need to address. On June the 2nd, we had a meeting and we didn't talk about it. We walked about it. We walked the rail load dock and we looked at these issues that are structural hazards. They're hazard to the people that work there. And we individually, and I've got to continue to work here, just like I have ever since I've been. And to sit here and debate this, to me, is crazy. I've seen what incidents and problems and warehouses that are in this shape have done to people. It's not pretty. We both agree that they needed to be addressed. This is not just pulling balloons out of the air. This is pointing out things that people can get seriously injured. You got concrete block walls that have been knocked down. And the way that they keep people out of life, they put a piece of plywood up and they barricade it from the inside. Unacceptable. Go look for yourself. I sent the pictures out probably 6-8 weeks ago. So people can see. We agree. I mentioned that there was phone calls coming in. Hey, you got to do something. You're right. We do got to do something. Last meeting, when I chaired, I was pushed to bring this to the floor. I refused because neither one of the representatives were here, and I didn't think it was right to discuss something when they're not present. They needed to be here. They needed to hear it. I was back out there on the 6th floor. We had another issue. And at that time, I said, hey, where are we at with this? And I was told, I've got calls out, I'm working on this, I'm getting it done. I even mentioned in the meeting that there was a simple task. It was a major safety issue, and it was the barrier gate on the center gate of North 2nd Street. So I back out on the 16th. He and I meet again, and I noticed that the gate was fixed. So I go look, and on the 14th, he done exactly what he told me he was going to do. He prioritized that and got it. I keep in touch with him. I'm checking with him to make sure we get this fixed. But you need to look at the pictures. This is not superficial. This is structural.
The email you sent today didn't have pictures. Did you send pictures there?
No, they were meant to be shown at the last meeting, but as Vice Chair said, it was deferred.
Do you want us to on the list?
We can get the pictures too, but you need to look at it. But I said then that there's a line of communication that we're working with. And the way that I work is I'm not just going to tell you or make an accusation that there's a problem. I'm going to take you to it and show it to you. I took the pictures for the benefit of the commission. Some of you can't get them. But I took them so you could see what I'm talking about. There's 27 incidents in areas that are photographed that I can supply anybody that wants. The media even got pictures. I was called the next day after the meeting and asked for those pictures. So there,
there has to be a process, for us to, you work out great, I'm all worked out, for long planning and addressing, what's happening from from a 50,000 foot level, but there has to be some sort of mechanism to where if a port commissioner, unilaterally is notified by somebody that there's an efficiency in something at the port, there has to be a process where we can go to the port operator. One of the things that I focused on was a lot of security in the exterior warehouse. You know, there has to be a mechanism in a timely fashion where we can go to the port operator and say, these lights aren't working. You know, within 14 days, that's just my suggestion. Give us an action plan on what you're going to do to address that.
When there's lists, we have a list. Every commissioner is sending a list to the operator. The most efficient way in this process, which is what we're trying to create, the most efficient way is, let's say, Tammy compile that list and then get to send it to the operator and let them go through it. If there are safety issues, those don't need to wait for these meetings. Those need to be addressed right then. That's what, let's call Ted, let's call Travis, and get those addressed because they're safety issues. But if there's a list of there's damage here, damage there, we need to address those. But there's got to be, like you said, a process. So there's not Ted's not getting 5 emails from Travis, not getting multiple emails from multiple commissioners to address this. So all this is let's this is part of the process. But then the workshop that Mr. Gill was referring to was more so to then really get down and address that. It's all about efficiency. That's what we need to improve the process. So I understand the concerns with safety, and those need to be addressed and not.
Chairman, I think that I'm hearing what the urgency, I think we should look at the list together as a board and let's have consensus. Because I don't think it's right, like, each of us be sending individual emails to Tammy and if it work out, that's not direction board. Like, the board has to have consensus, and then at a meeting, we direct Tammy or vote, really, I mean, we shouldn't vote it to take action to let you pass this information on to the operator of urgency, even if it's that gentle, it needs to be a collective action of the board. And that way you can say to the operating agreement, the board as a whole made a formal request. Need that.
Mr. Travis, you wanted to say a few words. You want to
briefly, I can give the verbal update what
you still
Can you identify himself, please?
Travis Intrower, General Manager for Relay Terminals. I can give a verbal update of conversations and what Commissioner Nelson and I spoke of. What I didn't want to do is send an email to anyone on the board present and say that this is what I have in the works. My intent was to get it done and show that it happened. I can give you now the verbal of what's going on, what's happening right now. We discussed the safety railing on Warehouse 1, which is on Front Street. That is right now in the process of being repaired and new steel put in to make that happen. I did not want to go in and put siding on the warehouse where there are rips until that was put in place. Side note there, I didn't push these issues because Commissioner Nelson said something to me. I agree that these are issues that need to be taken care of. So I mean, these are it's safety. It could be a breach of things that I know, and I wanted to address them. But I wanted to get it done and show this is what we're doing. We mentioned the siding, the steel rail, the pedestrian door going to 3 is ordered, warehouse 3 is ordered. I plan to have it replaced by the weekend. Again, I don't want to tell you it's gonna be done by Friday, but it's not until Monday. I didn't want to do that. We had talked about issues with crane number 9. I had it inspected before we put it to work, brought in someone and gave us a OSHA 72 form. It has issues, but it is able to work as long as we address these quickly. But I wanted to just address the board, let you know that these things that have been discussed so far are in the works. But I did not want to just say they're in the works. I wanted to be able to physically show you that that's what happened. And I wanted to be able to do it when it was done. And I was hoping to get it done before this week. Unfortunately, folks, timing, getting people out here and having this week is overwhelming. But these things are in the works. And I just want to address the board itself to let you know that it's not just getting put to the side. These are serious issues that we as relay terminals are wanting to address and get done. So that's the comment I want to say.
So, thank you.
Travis, this list, the 27 items you've seen with the keywords that was that sent out, we're all aware. Are y'all aware of these 27 items?
I do not have the exact list. I do not. And I apologize. I may have not looked over it. So I can't tell you I have or have not received it. Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
we started at the north end and we walked day by day, door by door, panel by panel. And I will make sure you have the pictures. But what we came up with is 27 areas that require attention. Okay.
What I got, mentioned, Mr. Nelson, is the second door from the north end that I believe is for the structural issues. Already in our capex plan to get that done. So these are things that are in motion. I guarantee that.
I was out there today. I don't know those people that were down at that door, if that's what they were down there, but I did know some people down there. Looked like maybe some welders or just somebody down there. So I am checking on them. And I didn't want to bring this to the floor the last meeting because there was no representation. And you and I have an agreement in stevedores. There is a code of ethics that we go by that we don't do that for reasons, right? Yes, sir. You know it, and I know. You got quite a few years on the dock, and that's something that you never do. Because if you do it, you don't. Yes, sir. Okay. So we have an understanding, and it's going to be transparent. We agree. Yes, sir. We'll talk about it. And then, like I said, I have no problem bringing it to you, just like we had the issue about the crane. You said, I'm going down there now, take care of it. I'm done with it. Yes, sir. So I appreciate your responsiveness. But what I don't appreciate is trying to, and I want to say this word politicized. I'm not a politician. I'm not even on that. When I see something that's not right, I'm coming. And I'm not leaving until it's right. And you and I agreed on this. And that's exactly what was happening with those bi-weekly reports that I would bring here. He kind of forced it into one meeting, and that was done away with. For whatever reason. For whatever reason.
It's all done away. Last year. There wasn't, we consolidate the ports, so the port security, port facilities, all that. So you even said you were gonna continue to go out there, please do that, and bring them, updates. Taking them, but that's just stuff, so you know that. So continue, absolutely continue doing that, bring these concerns. But don't say that anybody took anything away from you. I don't take any.
All right, let's get you clear. The committees were dissolved. There's no security on them. There's no facility.
What operations was combined?
So Travis, I will stay in contact with you and we will work together.
Here, what, can you give me the latest, balance of the, main sum? I'm just curious.
I'm gonna say somewhere around 50,000.
Okay.
It's not like much support.
and through the chair, I don't need to be involved at all. I was trying, I mean, it's at your will. I was trying to make sure that there was, because when I came in and what I saw was 3 meetings straight where there were things brought up by the commissioners, emails going through Rosanna forwarding them, instructed, and there was not any type of collective approach. Some commissioners knew what was, being emailed to the operator, some didn't, and you all deserve to know everything that's going on. And so however you want to do it, with the operator, and for sure, safety and emergency items need to be, to hell with the procedures, you need to get them notified and they need to be addressed. But the other things, I'm just here to help. Just, and to help Rosanna be able to consolidate these things and have a path. Because the operators, and I'm not speaking for them, it's what I saw. It was very, just pieces here and there, and I don't know how you really address that.
That's again, that's where efficiency, that's what we're trying to do. So, I still think that get in the way of the file list as the operator, and then we get those addressed. And I think that's something we'll bring back at the next meeting. Because yes, they should be addressed. So bring back the next meeting with response, answers, the operator on these conditions. And track safety for addressing what you did, kind of getting that. And Vice Chair, thank you for, again, talking with him, meeting with him. That's, that's stuff to that's so I certainly appreciate that.
Chairman, just for your information, I pulled a report the last 11 months. We have spent about $146,000 on maintenance items that are non-neglect or terrible group of words there, but items that we don't feel were neglect. A lot of those that Travis mentioned, but we don't get them in the report. So just to give you some high level numbers.
So how many was this?
And Ted, right there is,
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, can I address the board, please?
Yes.
Mike Levinich with the Fernandina Observer, 124 North 4th Street. There have been media reports. We asked for photos of the damage to the port warehouses. There were small little cut lines informing us of some of the damage. Part of government, and I hear you use the word transparency. So transparency would be, I've heard there's a list of 27 items that were submitted to the port operator regarding those photographs and associated damages. Where's the list? How does the public know what is on this list? How does the public know the status of those 27 items? And Commissioner Hill is exactly right. You collectively, as a board, have oversight over the operator to make sure those 27 items are addressed. Not only do you have the responsibility to the operator, you have the responsibility to the public, to the taxpayers. The job of the media is to hold government accountable. That's why I'm standing up here right now. Where's the list of 27 items? What is the status of those 27 items? Are your employees being endangered? And by not having those 27 items repaired, what is the cost to the taxpayer? What is the exposure? So please be transparent. Can we have the list? Can we have an update from the operator of what has been resolved on the list and what is pending?
You receive this list and 27 to 5 hours. Yeah. Is when we got this list. This is all very good, but again, not as Christian, in government here. Anyway, I'm sure Commissioner Nelson can send this out, or Zana can send this out to whoever asks for it, it's public documents, they're included, the public record.
How many photos would you use?
You know, off the top of my head, Vice Chair, I want to say a dozen. 12 to 14, I think, are included.
There is a total of 27.
Okay,
Okay, so okay, yes. So we're sending photos to the media, but we don't want that represented until 2/21 today. And what I heard, Travis Orr said, I have a couple business. I know you spoke with them. And he's working on those issues and have taken care of them. But
The only
before you get the media involved in all that's going on, you need to take care of it now. So you're doing your job. I appreciate that.
thank you.
And thank you for your civics lesson, and we understand it. We know it and our responsibility, but we're working on this. And I'm not going dump it off on you, but it's, we just received it this afternoon, so we have a chance to look at it ourselves, and we don't, the two operators here do not know about this with so give them a chance to work.
Let me put Rosanna.
It was part of Vice Chair's list to be compiled, as Tammy suggested. She wants all of the, list from all the commissioners and she will compile it. So it was part of that. That's why it was not, distributed.
And this is not a new list. This is a list that's been out there for months. Okay, these pictures have been out. They were sent for distribution. So for whatever reason, don't know. But that's why Travis and I had that 6-2 meeting, because nothing was given.
It was meant to be shown at the last meeting, but it was deferred to this meeting, so I do have it ready to show.
And Mike even asked me, is it gonna be tonight? I said, I don't know.
Okay.
Again, it's the same thing. It's just a matter of the best way to block out. So I understand that. Yeah, that work's gonna go through now.
In process, next. Smooth, that's just.
Again, part of the siding, I said, I'm waiting to get the steel in place of it, so, there's a small wet roadway there, you pull out a rail car between it to the warehouse. I want to replace the steel safety rail first. I have quotes in for partial patches for this, I also have quotes in with partial patches, let me stop for a second, we can handle in-house. Full patches, the whole sheet up and down, I'd have to get third-party labor to do it, so I'm waiting on those quotes as well. But this is in the process to address the particular siding features. This is the old welding tent. This was tied into the company that is gonna take down the Clyde Crane Hall with us, everyone knows. The same company was to do that there, get rid of this particular tent. Same.
This is scrap. No one, we can tape it off.
This has been taken care of. We found out that you actually have this in your estimate of relocating the business. That was not part of it when these photos were taken.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
this has been taken care of. This is what we're talking about. This is part of the 27 areas of concern. He's already described. Travis, I will have that list to you tonight. I've got hard copy of you, so if you want to look at it, it's not a problem. Everything you and I discussed as far as what the issue is what you, yes, sir. It's all part of it. If you hold that there, look down to the lower of that, You see that aisle in there? That's supposed to be standing up welded to that stanchion there. It's supposed to be welded to that to keep forklifts from getting into the pan. These pieces of metal that were sticking out, when we were walking, we had to walk outside of them because if you rub up against them, they're very sharp.
That's the door I'm referring to that we actually have in our head that's going to take care of.
Is there a timeline for that?
I do not have that yet. I'll work on that for me.
Yeah, like something that magnitude, like I have a procurement policy, so, you know, I tell Travis, hey, you gotta go get 3 quotes, make sure they're qualified, they're able to come and look on the board. And then get it done.
I described that wall there, that's a piece of plywood brought up from the inside.
Remember how long was
This right here.
Do you even know?
I have no
I
idea.
think bold.
Because they're stacking schools of material to block the doors, so at some point that became the procedure for operations. If someone directed to someone who was possibly employed, told them to do that at some point, and so you do have to wait for it.
Commissioners, in all fairness to relay. This goes back to Savage Services. And we
Relay.
count. Okay, so Savage.
It's on Nassau terminals.
That's, I,
It's on Nassau.
but for the sake of it, that
Doors down order, and it's actually on location. I'm gonna get it done by the weekend.
and when you read your damage description, that dock board is holding the door, if you notice. Okay, you can't secure a warehouse the way that looks right there. Somebody moves the dock board, somebody standing there not paying attention to get hit with the door.
That's it.
I was told by the last management regime that this was gonna be taken care of. So it wasn't. So.
Let's look for Travis.
6'2", he stepped up to the plate. That's why I said what I said. Okay, and then when I went back on 6'4", the only thing that I didn't see was the barrier gate on, but on 6'14", they took care of it. I've got the dates, times, everything.
You said, Commissioner, you said.
Yeah,
that was separate.
I sent, 6, things that I made. Do you have those, you know,
I do not.
We have to remember.
they were primarily, related to, the security lighting in the warehouse. I think one of you, there's, general condition. Exterior, metal, warehouse. One.
Well, I would just like to add to that, because I didn't get on this, that the doors that, when I went out and walked with the police department after, we had I'll call it friendly break-in. We went out and walked that area of the warehouse that is closest to the restaurant, and the doors, you really have to pull on it and get the lock. And the statement that was made by the security is just, all the doors have issues because it's a saltwater environment. But I would say as a general matter, the security perimeter needs to be reestablished. So like you're working on the arms, you're working on the gates, great. But just that perimeter, like ensuring that we are securing the perimeter, because otherwise you can't even say to a group of teenagers, you just created, you trespass, because when you look at the entrance, there's nothing to tell you There's a sign that says only authorized personnel. There's nothing to tell you you're about to violate, list of federal statutes, try that door, right? So the door isn't open.
I have your emails. Do you want me just to say what's?
Yeah.
Okay, so, Commissioner Moore, you cite this in your email as Fort Repair Project 25-03. West facing side of warehouse 3, security lighting on the west side is inoperative. And the desired action is the operator should take action to repair the identified security light and provide an action plan, and you go through the process. Please provide an action plan within 14 days and completion within 30 days. Security light, and then north facing side of warehouse 3, multiple security lights on the north facing wall of warehouse 3 are not working. This is cited as project 25-06. Fix the lights, initial action within 14 days and completion within 30 days. I'll forward all this to you.
Sure.
2505. South facing side of warehouse 1, multiple security lights on the south facing wall are not working. Please take action, initial action within 14 days, completion within 30 days. 04. West facing side of warehouse 1, the western facing metal wall on warehouse 1 shows signs of impact and temporary repair, which is also showing signs of impact. Take action to repair, initial action within 14 days, completion within 30. That's, I think, some of the pictures we saw here too. There should be 2 others, right? I did 3, 4 back, or 6, 5, 4.
Yeah, those are too smaller slides, not too big ones.
No, I understand. I just want to make sure I'm getting all 6. We talked about 3, 4, 5, 6. So I am not locating 1 and 2. Do you happen to recall 1 and just for?
Yeah, one way is the spring weather wall along the eastern wall warehouse 2 overgrown with vegetation, trees and stuff. It's basically, cherry lighting. I would say they're not because we're operating as the squad they provide the same meeting for security lighting, so they're there for security lighting.
And then your first one was the eastern length of warehouse 1. The vegetation is overgrown and obscuring the security lighting.
Right.
So those are all 6.
Travis, I need to put you on the spot. Are you aware of those concerns? Do you have any?
Thank you, Director. I would like to please second.
And the chair that David and about that, how they turn Commission more farm security grant at the security application you just put in his board for last meeting. We still had a letter that going to get from you all in response to the process. Part of that money includes signal outside of the secure area that you need industrial area work. Could possibly do lighting as well. That was in the application.
And that's fine, just as long as, we have a process to get that information to the board operators in a timely manner, and then, they can deliver the provide updates to us. That things should be prepared for the action.
Can I just clarify that these emails and photos were not distributed because Mrs. Bach is going to compile them for the board to look at? Thank you.
And the first time that I received any was before our last meeting. So But it sounds like we're getting ahead of it. There's nothing else to compile unless there's future things to come in. We just handled it here.
Justin, thank you. Sure, be on this, right back soon. Thank you.
So. Discuss the community consensus, we said this initial list of the operators, she's the maintenance concerns. And if we, are able to get together for a workshop or other meeting and prioritize some of these, I think that'd be great. First, the regional step to, things we can done. However, like Ray mentioned north, 14 days takes some of these lots. And then 30 days remediate, things that are critical safety concerns. If it's a larger program investment in the procurement process, we'll then make whatever meaningful progress within 30 days we can make. But it makes some meaningful progress to the safety, with metal sticking out, where that is marked off. So that nobody walks, down and hurts themselves. Yeah, I appreciate everybody going through a list like this and keeping that or that consensus to see police or for action to put them on notice, which I think is what we've all been waiting for. And I think that's what Vice Chair Nelson is really frustrated and that the hold on. So sometimes you have to guide us that as a board in order to act. It takes all of us. Like the board needs to hear that regularly and it doesn't can't somebody push.
Right.
The comments,
I just note that, I'm trying to find the section in the operating room, but every year, July 1st, we have to submit a maintenance plan, and that is in action. And I had every, intention of having that delivered on time. July 1st of each year, provide the Port Authority with a written maintenance report and account on each piece of equipment owned by the Port Authority. So,
great, thank you. Moving on to tab 7G, this is the protocol of environmental section, forms A and F.
So Chair, the Vice Chair put in his time and diligence to fill these out because they are due. I just need the board had the chance to review them. I just need approval to submit.
Any comments, questions, or action? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Cole.
Mr. Chair, can I ask you to turn your question?
Can you second it and then we'll. Oh, sounds good. Okay, so we have a second. So yes. Yes, sir.
On the signature part of the I refrain from signing anything until the word is given from you because it gets into depth and personal.
Yes, understood.
Okay. So it's good to go.
As far as I'm concerned, yes, but the action of the board tonight to submit it essentially gives you the authority to go with your signature.
Okay.
All right, so motion from Commissioner Cole, second from Commissioner Moore. All those in favor? All right, before we get to new business, we just need 5 minutes break. Was that, all right, 5 to 7 minutes. All right, we are reconvening. Thanks so much for the little brief break. Moving on into new business. This is our first budget review, fiscal year 2025-26. Turn it over now to our accountant. So yeah, so I just distributed the first draft that we talked about, the first draft of the budget. So you have a copy of it. I didn't do anything fancy, kind of looked at sort of the the budget for 2024, the year-to-date actuals, just prepared the budget. We expect somewhere around 3% increase. Remember, the increase is based on inflation. So, and that'll be decided in, I think, the October or the August or one of the inflation rates. So, whatever month it is. So again, but we expect somewhere around 3% increase in the annual fee. Yeah, I'll budgeted 50,000 for the pilot payment. That's for next year. I was saying the one due in October 1st of 2026. Obviously, the one for this year is in the current year, actually, which you'll see in a minute. So it's not here in the budget because we didn't have it in the budget, but I have put it to be paid before October 1st. Also, you'll be paid at least on September 30th. So obviously, if you have any suggestions, changes, we've talked about over the next couple of months, we'll be refining this. I'm looking into a couple of things. You'll see the salaries for the office administrator have gone up a little bit. And I think we've identified what may have been budget for this year. So I'll come back to you with details on that at some point later, but it wasn't a higher amount for next year. And I'll come back with further details on that. Other than that, as I said, there's not a lot of changes. The audit fee may go up a little bit, and that all depends if you have any. Remember, there's an additional fee for any. We have to do if you have over 750,000 grants, we have to pay an additional fee, which we didn't have any this year. So that's why the fee we did include one, but there was none in there. And so that's why the fee was slightly lower. Actually, the fee was lower. Okay. So again, if you have inputs, changes, we'll be refining this, working on it, getting quotes, again, talking to the auditors and stuff like that. That's the budget. Okay. So if you want to flip to page 2, I just want to show you. So, but the question is, how much carry forward will we have going forward, right? And so what this is actually looking at our cash flow. Okay. And essentially, if you look at the bottom, so you see the beginning balance and the ending balance, the last two columns, last two rows at the bottom. So that is what we have in the bank as of May 31st is $93,000. And then each month going forward, how much we're to spend and how much we have going forward. Okay. So what you can see is, and obviously in December or in September, we have several big payments. We have the insurance that needs to be paid, obviously the pilot payment that needs to be paid. And in October, we have the Florida Coach Council dues, right? So that's about $50,000. Well, the Florida Coach Council is $15,000, insurance $18,000, and obviously then the pilot payment $50,000. And you'll see up above, if you look at the income for September, we have 30,000. We're still estimating $30,000 coming in for the pilot payment from the operator, from the admin fees that we included in the tariff. And I'll just point out, so what we're looking at is obviously the ending balance can never be negative. That means we don't have the money to pay our bills, right? So essentially at the end of October, we'll have $36,000. So we're entering the year with approximately $36,000 in surplus funds that we can spend. And if you flip back to page 1, the budget every year right now is negative 28,000. Right? It's 28,000 more than the revenue that we're bringing in next year. Okay. So obviously I'd encourage you to address that and keep our surplus and not continue to spend the surplus. Obviously, remember that surplus is not applicable. There's no, what we receive is what we receive.
If this goes negative, we're taking from the surplus to fund our operation. Told you before, that's not sustainable. We can't, we're gonna run out of money at some point. Uh, Obviously, not having that money means that we can't do certain things. I mean, we're talking about, obviously, this includes, we're talking about spending $8,000 on the website next year. That's not included in here, right? And so again, that needs to be included in here. So just, that's what we're grappling with. And as I said, over the next month or so, we'll be refining these numbers. If anybody has any input, any addition, anything that needs to be included in there, obviously, do let me know so that we can include it in the budget, so that we're discussing all the programs that we have. And then, just so you know, on page 3, I did include, this is the 2024-2025 budget that we'll be approving at the latest, at the final meeting in September, right, for October 1st. So just so the budget includes more than just the operations. When we look at the treasurer's report, we're looking at that first column, which is the OHPA operations. We also includes the directly funded paid expenses for the operator, which includes like things like the customs house, utilities, the port security, obviously, the OHPA reserve fund, which is the $50,000 facility lease fee, and then the maintenance reserve account funded by the payments from the operator. So I just wanted to point out that that's where we're headed to, and that's what you're going to look at. So that, again, that's the 2024-25 budget that you're looking at. And obviously, when we become September, whatever meeting in September, we'll be approving 25 and 6 tomorrow. So that's all I have at this time about this. Like I said, we're continuing to refine the numbers, but we're looking at it, and I do encourage you to, do we or don't we address this gap? We have the funds to fund it, but getting down to a very low level of reserve of excess funds that we can apply to those operations. Yeah,
Do you allow the company is more your day October budget? Or did it typically this year goals? Or did they recently? If you don't allow that.
I'm assuming that was the fee. I'm assuming that was the fee. So obviously we need to increase the budget, but we'll confirm that with there should be nothing else in there, the TPO. So yeah, so obviously year on year kind of increases that we didn't build into the budget. And we'll confirm that and find out if the fee's going to be put that in the budget. So again, that's what we're going to be doing over the next couple of months.
And then the office administrator salaries, that includes the health insurance that you pay as part of your.
Yes, I think that's where the issue came from, is that you do reimburse, or we do allow on top of our salary $1,000 a month for health insurance, say that for the office administrator. And we may not have approved, but I need to go back and look at the salary and the notes when we approved the salary for the current budget, and was there a mistake made in that calculation? So
I would just say, based on all the email traffic and activities that, you all have undertaken for grants, you have really done us a great service on this. And we negotiated your agreement, and I know that, I thought part of your increased salary, but I still feel like we got a really good deal, when we hired you. I really appreciate the hard work. Well, thank you, Commissioner Moore, for also giving your time.
it's all there. TPC administrator.
And it is, thank you, Davis, for all your other grants.
All right, any other comment questions? We review on this in the next few months.
Full evening. I'm looking at the first page, quarterly fee. There's a 3% far right hand column. What is that?
And
That's 3% increase. That's the expected 3% increase based on inflation. And I'll just say if you look at the forecast, there's a slight variation. That's because of the nuance. So the actual fee for the current is the contract started in November. And so the payments don't start till November. So there's a little bit of a difference there in the actual fee as we calculate it per quarter versus the time of it. So the port security revenue, 261, 154. Where did that go? Don't say port security. Where that go to, where you need, but then obviously pays and ally and do that. And definitely, you know, so obviously you handle, allies and industrial, we build the operating, pay, OHPA, and we prevent the bottom. There's no richness in there for additional fees. When we receive a $1,000 ally, the operator sends us $2,000. We send $2,000. Okay. You're thinking, yeah.
And down to tab 8B, Front Streets, John. In your packet, I've got a little bit of backup information regarding the local property we own. It's water on Front Street. Can you know the background of where this, I guess, this to be around? In 2024, Nassau County Fire Rescue was awarded a grant to acquire a new 48-foot response boat. To support this initiative, the Nassau Board of County Commissioners has identified a need for waterfront property to establish a marine rescue station that will house a vessel and other emergency response assets. So I was approached last year by a battalion chief from Nassau County Fire Rescue regarding potential needing people waterfront property contingent upon the receipt of a grant for a 48-foot response vessel. Since then, they've been awarded the grant and they're going to perform the vessel's acquisition, which should take place sometime 26, quarter of 2026. So, following our initial discussions about approaching property, Mr. Warren's working on a possible RFP. When we started those discussions, I reached out to the county fire chief, Brady Brigden, and actually met him on site to assess whether the location for their operational needs. Chief Brigden expressed interest whether the property could be a good fit for what they require. So earlier this month, I also spoke with County Manager Todd Poe, who was excited about the opportunity. And so we agreed to present the concept to our respective boards to gauge interest in exploring this potential partnership source. So I want to just clarify, this is just exploring at this stage, no decisions, discussions have been made regarding structure of the agreement, but options could include a long-term lease or there's the idea of a direct sale of the property to the county. But again, they haven't discussed, so no direction or no idea on where the county wishes to proceed with their side. So this evening, I'm requesting that we formally begin exploring the opportunity for Nassau County Fire to utilize the Front Street property as a site rescue station. I believe this initiative aligns with our shared responsibility to serve the community and supports our vision. But this is more than just a property transaction. It's a chance for us to contribute meaningfully to the region's public safety infrastructure. And so as the demand for well-positioned emergency services continues to grow, our property, this grocery property, presents very unique and timely opportunity to meet that need. So it's the ask again, it's really just for those discussions to come formalized with this board agrees consensus. I'll then reach out to the county manager. We'll then have those discussions in the public forum, his board, and again, to gauge interest. So I wanted to bring this up. I think it's a great opportunity. supporting public safety, so nothing better than that. So I think this is a great opportunity in front of us, and so for discussion.
That's all I'm saying, yeah, I support you 100%. You know, obviously we've had the previous needs, but we had the follow-on, which I think was long on towards the grant application for the fire building. You address that. And we have a continuing need to have, you know, such a capability. I believe it serves, you know, obviously the rest of Delinean Beach, the city, but also the rest of National County. I think it's an excellent plan. You know, I would like, just thinking out loud, I would like to position it more as a public safety facility, and then invite, you know, potentially other interested parties into using the facility.
So, and yeah, so the sheriff as a you as well. So absolutely, I think that's something that can be brought as a goal.
Do you have information about the vessel?
It's 48 foot.
Yeah.
I got that.
Do you know, Sarah?
I do.
Yeah, it would be good to know what their shoreside needs are, you know, what equipment do they need to store to support it? Do they need like dedicated fuel dock? Do they utilize the fuel dock, you know, that we already have at the waterfront? Or just be good to know like what traffic they're anticipating, to see what their plan is. But I like the idea of a lease, just because I like the idea of a partnership, not just like passing it off. And I think it's great. So it would just be good to know a bit more about like what their actual physical support needs would be during this time.
Yeah, again, this is just initial discussion, this is to try to get it, because we're the decision makers, the OCC is the decision maker, so it's gotta go between their, for the respective boards, and to state, if, them, they're okay, you know, agreeing with exploring this opportunity, and we'll start along this questions answered.
Does it, water, is the fire going to draw salt water, or how is it going to fight fire?
So we have a piece of water property on Front Street. Well,
I know a little bit, just knowing about containers. Those followers, they'll pump from the water, so they're not taking tanks of water out with them. So they have a system that actually pumps water directly from, in this case, the Middle River, you know, for a fire that shoots it out of the problem.
Because I've heard when we had the fire, public justice, there's like a lot of cleanup, just like the foam and all that stuff is like hazard never. And I know that the river people always say if they're using fire retardant foam and it's PFAS and then that gets in the water and causes forever damage, you know, so there are ways to get out of that. I heard a story today that like soybeans are being used to create I guess, non-PFAS, firefighting foam. So I don't know that it meets the standards of our local fire chief and our fire department, but there are state forms of fire retardant.
There's 36 canisters that were purchased that are hazardous free. They're under the stevedore's office. That was a result of the Russell fire because they ran out of foam.
Yeah.
So Ty Silcox, who was the fire chief at that time, asked Worldwide Terminals if we would donate. We did. Actually, that was worked out between Beach and Butch Gilbert at the time. But there is 36. So I don't know if y'all are aware of that, but it's underneath. And the fire department was told that they can get it whenever they need it. but they'll replenish it. So you've got an inventory of 36 items free.
So I'm in favor of this. I think we should definitely explore options, and I think we should include the city in those discussions. So the city has their own emergency response, and we should all have a unified approach to public safety, because in an emergency, that is how we would be want to respond, why people would respond. We would all first responders, the city, county, or everybody would be on.
Just to get your leads going as soon as possible. It's gonna take a bit of permitting to put a bird there.
Yeah, well,
And the other concern is the navigable one is at the end of the Forest Pier. I mean, you jump off on the pier, you're in the navigable water.
Yeah,
Sure. How far out the, the state would allow them to get into that navigable waterway would be a question I have. How far can you go out there before it's another?
Alright, any other comments?
Logan?
No, just consensus, I did speak with, so Timmy, had a, commitment, so she needed to leave, but, she knew about this item and just, since it's, well, take you back to you. Thank you. All right, it's at 8D, Florida Council Fall Meeting on 25/27, Long Boat E. We need to send a representative. I believe we had a volunteer. Which we don't really go here. See what else would like to go to. Over. Nobody wants to go on with you.
Rosanna, not going, not this time.
It's too far. I think he would benefit from the funds available for a airfare or something like that, or 2 day, 2 nights, stay.
So what is the budget for it?
Just.
Oh, I think it's $299 a night, the hotel.
Total budget of 2,000, which is probably already.
Yeah, exactly.
Less than that.
Travel budget is $1,000.
For the whole year.
So we use 740
Yeah.
on it so far. Director.
The IRS knowledge, I think the mileage is gonna cost as much, if not more than the flight. If he does gas reimbursement, it's probably. Right after the budget limit, and reduce our carry forward, we can get clear stuff.
You're welcome. So you can hold together, we need to stay here. So
They have a remote option. They offer that, and yeah. So
I do not know.
for certain meetings, if they do, we should go down and then. One-on-one.
I mean, the bottom line, is we don't have the money to do it, we need the money to do it. I certainly don't want to, definitely not financial, or I don't want us to have any issue. Move money around or go beyond. We were talking to. And this is not, you went to that, the annual, so we might skip it. Nothing over on that.
So we have travel, we have what about budget for
It's about 300.
that's that amount is available, beyond that, it's. So we. Anything we use doesn't carry forward, so it's. That's it.
maybe one where to do sit it out, just looking at the couple 390 and 600 just for the, so it's 299 for the room, that was for the birds, so it's for just the room. and
Just for the room.
Okay. Jose, could you check and see if they have
I will. Yes, I will.
And I think, I think the board are always welcome to go, we want you to go and represent us. There have been some times where board members could go and stay like bread and you go, when it's like trying to figure out how to be creative, or if you go to a great hotel, pay for yourself. But, I'd be willing to give everything out of budget, for that, if you want to pay the rest, but. Try to level. I mean, I think if we're gonna get to the point where we have to talk and start talking about salary cuts or other things years beyond. And I've actually had these conversations, not to mitigate the main issue, which is the problem with what is going to do with TV, about how costs have affecting and when it comes to legal. And that we're gonna be very thoughtful about what's truly a legal question and what is not, what is just trying to consolidate communications, like to the extent that we can consolidate communications out of the days and have clear direction, that should just be a follow, from Rosanna, not necessarily. So that will need more money for, Rosanna and commissioners go to the conference. Instead of paying a lawyer to communicate with us. That's just my 2 cents.
Sure. Okay, so your objective is no option, other than that, we'll just sit this out.
I mean, really, you're not gonna be, develop with $8,000 novel budget, you aren't gonna be able to do that much in-person discussions as anything to develop. Agent. So. I think that if I do adjustment for travel in that category, might be in order when we finally able to adjustments. Economic development does require one-on-one conversations, even if you're driving that.
Tab 8E, the CDP facility projects. There's a conversation with CDP, grant appropriations, engineer plans, design, Rosanna.
So the question for this item is, we're going to need an engineer, and is Relay going to use their in-house engineer, or do we use Aptum?
Well, I think what we're doing on the 30th is we're having sort of and it's gonna be greatly for us we're gonna have kind of a rehash all people of CDE. I need to fully understand what the expectations are, where we came from, where we need to go to, and kind of go from there. That's where I'm at.
They call it 30th?
Yep.
And that was recommended by Economic too, right? Like just get together, CDB,
Yeah.
introduce new faces.
I think it'll really help me. It's been a confusing project.
Hopefully she'll call you by the way being like,
She'll call me Greg. We have a very different haircut, Greg and I.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got that, we've got in record dollar figures, 163,000.
For
This EPD project and have a
146,000.
which is so far to be even.
Yeah.
Yeah, 146,000.
That's for engineering.
That is for structure. And then also the operations.
146 is 50/50, right? The 146 is 50/50, so you'd have to write a check for the other 146.
Yeah.
Okay, and then hopefully 350 in appropriations.
Yeah.
Okay.
Getting the signal that Davis Bean may have some additional information on when entering 146 that are being given that planning through that said, now one of the word that's still requiring that you did that. If rebid pending governor approval, which would be state fiscal year, probably in the next 2 days. That come through. I know their call 6:30 time. You guys kind of got here and you only had some working to report on. And
Sound good?
I thought there was an article published in about the comment about getting backwatch from that request for appropriations Turkey. And I don't know how much credit people give to that, but it troubles me because the fiscal conservative, when there's an objection to the customs facility that's been like on this agenda at these meetings for like 18 years. That's that long of issue. And the proposed solution, I think, is an economic one that you're gonna repurpose your meeting facility. To imply that they're like trying to cut in line or like misuse funding, you can look back and there is indeed precedent for the governor identifying specific projects, the transportation project, major transportation projects, and funding them directly through the legislature. So I was just troubled by that, but I appreciate Davis's diligence and was hopeful that we're.
To add to that, we're talking about appropriations. The city just got 4 million for their seawall. And so I spoke with Mrs. Jacobs, and she would like to work with OPA on more funds for our seawall. So I just have to schedule for her, or
we're all working.
Yes, you just want to schedule time, you schedule time, or schedule around time here.
she wants to speak to the board.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Right. I will schedule that.
Yeah, I think that that's a good call out because all these projects, when you're gonna identify a project from state funding, the key is an infrastructure project that enhances safety, addresses congestion, bolsters supply chain, but it has to be a project that's not controversial. And seawall for us and the city is not controversial, we're in agreement. The customs house is not controversial, and we're in agreement. And so I think these are two opportunities to go after.
All right, moving forward to 8F, the IDP grant application, grant writer updates. Start with Ed.
Yeah, so I actually interviewed a grant writer today. The company is H.A. Cumber, former deputy chief of staff for USDOT, Bush administration. They claimed 3.5 billion in grant money through USDOT, and they're based in Jacksonville. Also, it's on my to-do list to reach out to these guys and sort of see their availability as well. But I know time is very short, so we have to kind of pick a horse and go with them. This particular firm was highly recommended by one of our shareholders, so that's where I'm at.
Okay, we'll I'm not having any time to be talk about the process. Or we can do it's going to be
Yeah, we're gonna fast track it because again, I'm ignorant of some things. I just admit it, and I thought there was a bunch of engineering done on some of these projects in there. I don't think there has been. So we're gonna have to fast track some stuff. Working with reality.
That's does any of you remember when the PID grant the
September 10th.
sounds like a long way away.
It's not.
Grant year, that's pretty bad.
It's not.
All right, any comments regarding data? Board Commissioner IX, Commissioner Moore.
I don't think
Commissioner Did. Chair Nelson.
Already ready.
Commissioner Bowe.
very brief. We had a groundbreaking ceremony for the killer today at Wildlife Summer. And here at the brochure folder, I would like to look, it shows the projected warehouse spaces and stuff.
Congratulations.
Yeah, this is a big deal. This is a big, real huge deal. Is that called the, okay, is that back working? Or do we have any? There will be, at this point, there's back working. They don't have any back around that. Yeah, but, I know from past drinking back in Baltimore, we get all the every one space. And when we got it ready, double every, they're going to line that. 2018. Yeah. That's what we're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, there's a great warrant out there, groundbreaking, things, which you did, you know, out there as well. It was hot,